Hi everyone, this is Theodore Sparopoulos. I'm the director of the Architectural Association's Design Research Lab, and I'm joined today with 3 students as part of our open live session.
Hi, I'm Ariadna. I'm a current phase 2.
Hi, I'm Laura, phase 1.
Hi, hello, I'm Olcan. I'm a phase... Oh, sorry. Hi, I'm Olcan. I'm a phase 1 as well.
We've sort of prepared a little bit of a presentation to kind of give a little bit of an overview about what the DRL is about and how that is really situating itself relative to the AA. So, the PowerPoint presentation. To kind of understand what the DRL is about, I think it's really important to understand a little bit about the ethos about what the Architectural Association is, which for us in particular, it's really about a continuing experiment. So a lot of the work that we do is really motivated by asking informed questions about how architecture can really participate, how we could develop a community of people that are exploring in a kind of informed way what architecture could be. The way that we sort of approach that is really about opening up these questions and dialogue and discourse in a way that's really shared and collective. And we are very fortunate to have a group of students that are coming to us from pretty much everywhere in the world, over 35 different countries, 40 students each year, to sort of work with a staff that's also very international and practice-based to really sort of discover what architecture is. The AA spirited way has always been a place where experimentation was always foregrounded as a way of actually trying to interrogate architecture as a way of thinking, to explore that in a way that is progressive, to try to be inventive and innovative, and actually to try to understand how the contemporary way of thinking about architecture is really evolving a discourse that's always been about sort of asking more. The DRL, to be honest, this year 20th anniversary, and part of that I think is an ongoing kind of community that's been developing that's really part of a much larger network of people within the AA, outside of the AA, and a big part of that I think is really to be very active in terms of developing this kind of idea of architecture. Some of the things that are very particular to the program have actually really been questioning the role of technology and also the way that architecture is taught, the methodologies that we sort of use, the idea of practice. And a lot of those things are kind of evolving from a period of the 60s and 70s where the computer kind of came into our world. And the way that we sort of work on that is really about sort of using the AA and the idea of our space, the City of London as a prototype, and sort of exploring that in a way where we really consider this idea that almost everything could be considered architectural. Our basic premise is that space is an interface. Space is the kind of guiding principle that allows us to sort of look at architecture in a very kind of open and exploratory way. And it takes its cues, I think, to a kind of experimental idea of architecture that resonates maybe with something that Hans Hollein once said, that he said, a true architecture of our time will have to redefine itself and expand its means. Many areas outside of the traditional building will enter the realm of architecture and architects will enter new fields. Everything is architecture. At the AA, I think it's always been about community, about people working together. I think this week is a good example of the graduate school trying to communicate itself relative to some of the things that we're doing. The way that that's done, I think, is really much about sort of using the school as a space where a lot of this work is actually open to the general public. And we invite people to come and actually see what we do. January 11th and 12th of 2018 will be actually a presentation like the one that you're seeing right now, which we invite a whole series of international guests, some from London, some from abroad, to really share and to discuss, I think, a lot of the research agendas that we're sort of developing. The AA has always had a of that, people coming together in a kind of very horizontal manner where we could discuss a lot of the work and sort of problematize how architecture can sort of evolve a kind of agenda beyond this. Our current research agenda is something that we're calling constructing agency, and our studio really is an experiment in itself We work in teams. We really believe in sort of collaboration and an interdisciplinary sort of approach to things. As much of communicating ourselves and what teachers kind of offer, it's also students actually feeling a responsibility and accountability to actually teach and to share their knowledge with each other. That extends to a community abroad. Here, for example, Ray Cappy, which is the director of SciArc, with our studio trips that basically also extend, I think, the studio environment and the teaching environment into the domain of actually outside collaborators and innovators in their own rights. Sometimes it's also having conversations with ourselves and with the things that we sort of design. They could be machines, they could be robots, they could be prototypes, but it's actually looking through making and making as a way of forming an understanding about things and asking about the potential and the possibilities about what architecture could be instead of trying to define what it should be. We explore computation and try to make that a way that we can communicate in a more kind of expressive way and an accessible way how some of these ideas are very time-based and behavioral, how things evolve over time. And I think a lot of the challenges that we have in a contemporary world is to really see how architecture could actively participate. Beyond building, it's about trying to think about how architecture as a way of approaching things and as a way of sort of communicating in between things offers the possibility for us to be involved in many different things. And that's part of the nature of the course, is actually to create possibilities, to work in architectural practices that are very leading and cutting edge, to create their own practices, but also to be educators, to be professionals in every manner of speaking, from technologists to architects and urbanists. We have a very active making culture. We see it as a way of sort of developing proof of concepts. And part of that is also to demonstrate prototypes and making things accessible and shared to communities that are not necessarily always architectural. A lot of the work that we sort of develop is really about trying to explore materiality, to sort of use opportunities to sort of develop live projects. So for example, in our 10th anniversary, we held a competition for all of our graduates, basically to design a pavilion using fiber concrete, and we built this as a proof of concept kind of side project that we did outside of the AA, as a way of also testing some assumptions and to make that as part of the kind of larger culture of actually what it means to create and make space. The history of the DRL and prototyping has continued from the very beginning, and I think that's part of the sensibility. This is a project, you could see Mark Forns here, which is one of our graduates. You could fast forward 12, 15 years now, and you could see a project that he just recently opened, large-scale pavilion. He set up his own practice called The Very Many in New York. We have a student like Malike Altanisik, who graduated with us 10 years ago, now actually being a project architect of her own office, largest commission to design the largest tower in Turkey at the moment. A lot of the things that we sort of develop is really not about a certain tool set or a certain kind of idea of what architecture style is, but it's really about a culture of actually thinking and making and trying to find the possibilities of how to do that. If you want to make an airborne architecture, we believe that it could be possible. There is no idea that actually we feel is not something worth developing, as long as there's a culture and a kind of accountability to sort of work through some of those problems. Recently we've been challenging ideas and notions of robotics. Our students don't come with a background in a lot of these things. We're not computer scientists, we're not robotics engineers, but we actually work through a way of actually thinking and making that gives us sensibility and the community an opportunity to sort of actually see how these things could actually be attainable through a kind of learning and educational model which is really about sharing and developing. That stuff continuously sort of finds its form in different ways, and I think a lot of the ideas could actually be thought about as really simple ideas that kind of build up complexity. This complexity kind of evolves over time, and a lot of these projects, by the nature of them being so collaborative and being developed in team-based sort of formations, evolve as something that actually is something that's outside of any one particular author. It's really about the group of people coming together and responding to much larger challenges. This project in particular, looking at what a self-organizational model could be for rethinking a strategy for a space architecture. We took this project as something that was very serious. This isn't something about representation or modeling. This was something about thinking about an architecture that is dynamic, that's continuously challenging, evolving, very time-based, but also dealing with very real-world constraints. So, for example, limitation of materials and the costs that it takes to actually put things out into space, looking at challenges like space dust and all of these other things that are already becoming real issues within that environment. But aside from our own speculations, we traveled to California, we met with the Jet Propulsion Lab, we met with space architects. A lot of our assumptions are founded on the fact that a lot of the kind of accessible material experimentation is there, but we make it part of our methodology to really reach out to the community and to share sort of our design thinking and research, and at the same time actually open that up, I think, to the challenges. We very much feel that architecture is anticipatory and participatory by its nature, and by doing that, I think it affords us a way to actually really reach out to the general public as a whole. Computation is something that's very important, but actually this isn't a course about technology for technology's sake. We just feel that technology today enables us to really push further, I think, a lot of the radical ideas that were set as a continuing kind of experiment, and our students are very actively using the tools of today to sort of be able to continue some of that legacy. So I'm just going to wrap up by basically saying Cedric Price, who is one of our key figures that have come out of the AA, used to say that technology is the answer. He followed that up by actually what was the question, and I think that sort of sets up a little bit how we actually think about the DRL. It's about trying to ask more informed ways of asking questions. So with that, I'm going to pass this to Ariana, and she could speak a little bit about some of the work that they've been doing actually right now with their time in build space.
Range of engineers, designers with very different backgrounds, not specifically architecture, but those are the conversations that actually enrich our project much more, because we were able to converse about the things that are happening at the DRL with people that have no idea of who we are, but are interested in our work. And I think that the things that happened while we were there, were amazing. I think that we all come closer together in the studio trip, but also we have time to really just have fun with what we're doing. And I think that this is what the program is about. It's 16 months of freedom for creation and research, and in the best way possible, just making and creation, which I think makes the DRL a very special place. We don't have that luxury anywhere but here. So in that way, I think that's what sets us apart.
Do you guys want to talk a little bit about your experience? Because you guys just came here,
yes,
right?
Yes,
so
just came.
Ariana is basically in her last 5 weeks with us, which is a 16-month course. And I think one of the things that makes the course very interesting is to have this kind of overlap, where the thesis students are finishing and at the same time we have a new cohort of students kind of coming in, and maybe I think it would be nice for you guys just to basically share a little bit some of your thinking and some of the things that maybe have brought you here, and I think actually a little bit, probably a lot of the questions that you had prior to coming here, which I'm not sure that those have been answered yet, but I think as part of the process, I think it would be great for people, I think, to get your perspective.
Okay, yeah. First of all, I would like to say that I came last year for the presentation of Phase 2. And that's a great opportunity to speak with these guys and figure out what we're going to do and see the projects they make. So I would say, if you're interested in this program, just visit this presentation. It's amazing. We will be all around. You will talk with people, and that's great for me. It was really helpful, and that was the point that I say I would like to join this program. Secondly, this overlapping with the Phase 2 at the beginning, it was a little bit weird. They told us we have to help these guys. But to be honest, the first presentation I saw from you guys, I was like a bit afraid. I saw all this stuff and I was like, oh my God, am I gonna do these things? But after starting helping you, it was much more easier. And yesterday I was sitting there and saw the presentation and was pretty sure that I'm gonna do all the stuff. So, yeah.
I'm not gonna dive into the reasons why you wanna come here, but I can share my experience after I came here, because I had some questions in my mind that we're actually doing a teamwork, and actually this is like the main part of the program actually, because you learn to communicate with people, and I think that was, I mean, Theo was talking about that the whole school is a community, and you get to know people from all around the world, and you get to, you know, communicate in the architectural, you know, projects and stuff. And also the overlapping was super helpful, that you can dive into the projects, so the Phase 2s, and you can get, you know, technical details, programming. You can have a critique about their projects, and you can see what you're gonna do in the future as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think for me it's a lot about this accumulation of knowledge, which is super important in the course, because I think the overlap between phases gives you guys a lot of security. It gave me a lot of security when I started helping the Phase 2s. You see that you have a lot of backup. Like it's a big community, and there's a lot of knowledge that you build up from. It's not that you are starting from scratch, or it's expected that you come with all this knowledge on programming and coding. It's really a lot that's there. It's a really big foundation, and I think that's important.
Yeah, I mean, I think just generally speaking, the things that are really important to me in really assessing, I think, how we sort of deliver the education that we're trying to do is really to try to maintain the DRL as really a platform that is really an open framework to kind of allow students, particularly to come to the course, to really bring themselves in a very kind of open-minded way to really explore, I think, some of the challenges of what we're dealing with today in contemporary society. And the approach that we have, I think, speaks about community, because it's a way to actually deeply understand not only the kind of social issues that are thought about, but actually the nature of how we work on those problems, and actually the way that we produce and think about architecture. And I think sometimes, you know, for me particularly, you use the word kind of to be comforted in some sense. The fact that students are coming with a lot of enthusiasm and energy, I think, motivates the staff in a way that, to be honest, is kind of almost an obsession, or a way of really trying to also kind of, in a very deeply personal way from my perspective, remind myself why I came here as well. And maybe as being the longest standing member of the DRL in some sense, it's a place that actually on a year-to-year basis kind of reinvigorates me to actually really engage with a lot of the discussions, and working with young people actually is an amazingly enabling way of thinking about how we could actually really make a meaningful influence on things. So for me, like, it's always like really important to actually be able to discuss these things, and our staff is also, I think, very important to recognize that they're practitioners, they believe in design. We're kind of unapologetic about that stuff. We really feel that design actually makes a difference, and a lot of the things that actually are brought to the table are also very much based on the fact that our community is so international that though they may be scared or curious if they're able to do these things, if they can develop this kind of technological kind of approach to stuff, fundamentally they're all architects actually really coming with their own knowledge. And I think as they get more confident in terms of actually feeling that they're capable of exploring some of these things, then I think that's what really makes an empowering kind of community, is actually understanding how these things actually come together. And I think the projects reflect that, because they are kind of co-authored and shared, and this knowledge is something that is actually maintained through, I think, the dynamism of conversation and the real confidence in the fact that architecture is actually a very important participant today, more so now than maybe ever. So I think we have some questions that people are sending in, and some of them have to do with software. And that's a pretty fair question, if I'm honest. So we don't have any mandate that you actually have to know digital tools prior to coming. So generally speaking, our approach to software isn't tied to a particular way of thinking about computation. So basically any piece of software that you think would be useful, we'll teach you. And honestly, the way that we structure everything is that you develop workshops that help you to develop, I think, more complex ideas of how to use computation. The software platforms, we teach pretty much all of them in software tutorials that students are working with some very good staff teaching some of these things. But beyond skill sets and so forth, it's really about trying to think in a more conceptual way about how to use some of these platforms as a way to actually develop things. We do a lot of scripting, we develop descriptive geometries, we work with tangible media, we try to develop strategies for sensing, we think about robotics and how to communicate with machines. It can sound a little bit overwhelming, but realistically, we don't do this in isolation. We're working on these things together, and because the students work together with the staff to develop this, the learning curve of that is quite quick. So if you have a lot of reservations about software, it's not a software finishing school, but we will teach you how to do some stuff. The other questions here: where do most graduates work after completing this degree? Which I guess this is to me, because these guys are still here, and I don't really have a magic ball with me right now for them. But I mean, our students actually do a lot of things. Over the 20 years, I think they have set up some very successful practices in their own right. Some of them, like Office in Slovenia, or Yosuke Hayano, who is a partner of MAD in China, Mark Forns in New York. We have a lot of, I think, distinguished graduates, which is always very humbling to me. But beyond that, you know, a lot of them continue in education in terms of continuing PhD or researchers. Others actually move into actually becoming educators their own right. Some are here in this school, down the street at the Bartlett and the B-Pro program as an example. There are a lot of people that are, I think, very actively participating in the community. And I think they see themselves as people that actually want to actually really participate and to work with other people. And I think that that spirit, I think, is something that's very important. They also work in a lot of offices. So in London, in places like Thomas Heatherwick or Zaha Hadid's office, Norman Foster's, there are a lot of offices that have a lot of our graduates in there. And honestly, I think that's part of that extended network of this community that has been working in this field for 20 years, and I can say has been working in a way which continuously tries to question itself and to sort of reconsider actually the nature of what that practice actually means. So we are, I think, in many ways looking forward to kind of continue that, and if you have an interest in some of the things that we talk about, then please, you should feel free to kind of reach out and to speak to us about that. I don't know if there's more questions that are coming in at the moment.
Why did you choose DRL?
Okay, questions about why we chose DRL. I could answer this even myself, actually, but I'm not going to.
That would be interesting to hear, actually.
Yeah, okay. So I'm also a graduate of the DRL. And I can say, if anything, I came full circle, and maybe that lends itself to the previous question too, because I didn't actually come to the AA with any real expectation, nor did I know what the DRL was at the time. There wasn't even a website. But I know after I finished that I had felt like I achieved something, like almost like surviving something, which was kind of the AA ethos. I went back to New York, and I moved back a year later to start to teach in the place where not too long ago I had actually just thought that I would never be able to come and study to. Fast forward 15 years, and I'm sitting here speaking to you guys, inviting people who would like to come and study here in a similar way that I did. I don't think that there's any other place that would allow this kind of thing, like a kid of 24 years old becoming a teacher, and been directing this thing for 10 years, and realistically speaking, still feel quite humbled by that whole thing. So my path, I think, is not anything that's my own. I think it's part of the place actually creating opportunities for young people, and I think being part of the community, even if I was a very kind of solitude, kind of arty type sitting by myself, just exposed me to such a different way of working, and the power of actually working and collaborating with people together, which basically changed my life, and I've made this place my home for the last 17 years. That's my story, but I'm sure yours is more interesting.
No, actually, mine is very similar to yours in the sense that I came to the DRL without any expectations. I sort of dived in, and I would say that it was a very pleasant surprise in that way. I don't think you always need to build up expectations. I think that it's also nice to just jump in. It has been, it's like jumping in a bucket of cold water. You sort of like get shocked at the beginning, but then slowly you get used to it, and like you get used to the rhythm. But also this collaboration and this team collaboration, which I think is like pretty new to a lot of us, sort of helps you get there. Like it, talking about the problems that you need to solve, not only with your teammates, but with everyone else, like the staff around you and the phase ones. And sometimes we even get like a phase 4, like people that graduated 4 years ago dropping by and saying hello to see what's happening. And then you get to talk to them about what you're doing, and perhaps they had a similar issue at their time. So I think that as you go and as you begin to understand a bit more this community sense, the bucket starts feeling a bit less cold, and you start to warm up. So in that sense, I think that it doesn't matter what the expectations are, this place will sort of change all of that up, depending on what you also want to get out of it.
Yeah. Actually, I had a lot of expectations before coming here, but I mean, all these things that you're talking about, working with other people, other cultures, and all the stuff, you don't know that before coming here.
Yeah.
I mean, you have to start, and it's very intensive from the first day, and you just have to come. If you feel like you're interested in this stuff, I mean, this is the best place for doing this. So that's why I came, and I just want to see what you guys are doing here. It's not about working with other people. I mean, after that you will realize that this is the most important thing, because even all the stuff that you're scared about, the softwares, what we're working with, I mean, 3 weeks ago I couldn't imagine that I'm gonna writing codes and I'm doing this stuff, and because of all of you, I mean, I could ask everyone, the tutors are amazing. We have every Saturday software classes. There's not really a weekend. We're always here and we're working all together, and this is why we can go through this in 1.5 years. I mean, 60 months is a short time to learn all the stuff, and I don't know.
But don't you think that it's because like everyone is so excited about it that you want to be here? No.
Yes,
Like,
of course. Yes.
For me, that was the greatest thing. Like seeing the tutors coming on a Saturday or a Sunday, and then you realize like this is really exciting. Like I also want to be there. Like,
Yes.
as exciting as London is to be, for sure. Like it's so exciting to be in London, but for some reason it's also more exciting to be in studio.
Yes.
So
Absolutely. Yes, that's true.
Yeah, for me, I mean, thank God we had the website. So I was, basically going through the projects, and I mean, when you compare with other schools and stuff, the outcome is kind of different than the other ones. It's more radical, and some of the stuff that I was talking with my dad planning to come here, and he visited the website, and he said like, there are some robots and stuff. What are you gonna study? I said, Master of Architecture. And he was, and I mean, after I came, the things that I saw, it was all over it was much more than I expected, basically, after I came here. I mean, you have the space and the facilities and all that stuff that you can do crazy stuff like this. I mean, it's exactly that. People don't come with the software backgrounds, but after a year and a half, people do amazing stuff here, yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's also very difficult to see the website and choose that master. I mean, that's really difficult. You have to come and see what that means and what's the difference, because you can see this, you can see something else, and you don't really understand what's different in that. I mean,
yeah.
If you're not familiar with things like that, I came from a school, Bauhaus, and I don't know about these things, so I'm not able to say if that's good what they are doing or not. So, I mean, the beginning is very difficult to see just the website and understand if that's something that you want to do.
Yeah, that's true, but at least for me it was like more than I expected.
Yeah, that's good.
At least I get the sense that this is a place that you can do some, there's a possibilities are considered seriously.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I think, that's probably one of the things that students say most is like, they don't really know what we do. Maybe I'm not the best at sort of communicating it, but I think the experience of actually really sort of working and exploring the stuff and seeing the studio and meeting with people, I think we could only kind of encourage people, if they have an interest in things, to come and to explore that. I think one of the aspects about a place like the AA that I think distinguishes it from many things, it's not a university. It is a place actually where it is almost like a completely open door policy to walk and to discover and to see the things that we're doing, to see those things that other programs are doing, and to really be able to come to your own conclusions about actually what this could be. And I think the direct access to things, I think, is very important, and the conversations are actually very necessary. And we understand that architecture is a pretty complicated thing. I'm getting signaled that it's time to wrap up. So with that, I think I could only sort of really encourage people. We have the Phase 2 final reviews, which I showed some pictures of on the 11th and 12th of January. I think it's a really interesting time because it's part of Graduate School Open Week, and invite you all to come to participate in the juries and to see the kinds of conversations, the latest work, the discussion, the discourse, and I think just to understand what it means to actually come to the school like the Architectural Association. So with that, we'd like to say thank you for giving us a little bit of time, and hopefully this has been useful to you guys, and if you have questions, please kind of reach out to us or to reach out to admissions, and we'll do the best that we can to sort of communicate to everybody and try to answer what we can. But with that, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.